Okay, you guys, I'm so excited for today, like I always say, but I really am. So I have Erin with me, and we have met over social media. And guys, I can't express enough. I know there's like a love hate with social media, but I love it because I have met some amazing people. And it's so crazy because the people that I've met, like me and her actually live really, really close together, like, like by each other. It's just crazy how it all works out. Anyway, she's a fellow adoptee, and I asked her to share her story with us, and I am so excited because she said yes. I just love it because there's always something new that I learn when people come and share these. So I will go ahead and I will turn the time over to her, and I will have Erin share her story.
Hello, my name is Erin, and this is my adoption story. So, I was born in Calcutta, India, back in the 80s. And so, back when I was given up for adoption, the only information that I have to this day is within my adoption papers, and it said that a single unaccompanied, unwedded woman entered into the orphanage, came in, had the baby, and then found out the gender and then left. So basically, in India, it's one of those things that having girls is kind of looked down on. And so, there's multiple reasons as to why I could have been left. But back here in the United States, my mom was single, in her 30s, didn't think she was going to get married. So she decided to start the adoption process. And she was one of the first to be considered for adoption because of the fact of her single status. So once everything started going through and working out for her, she actually met my dad, and my dad was a newly convert to the church. And she basically, told him, if you're dating me, you're dating me and my daughter, kind of thing. And he's like, that's cool. And so basically, my dad and my mom became my mom right away. And my dad basically just kind of stepped into that role. And then they got engaged a few months later and then got married, you know, shortly after that kind of thing. So for me, I'm the oldest of six. So they adopted me and then they had four of their own. And then when they had my baby brother, like a year or so after that, I turned to them and asked them, well, when do I get a sister like me? And so that's when they decided that I, that, going and looking into adoption again was something that they wanted to do. So we then turned around and as a family um, started the adoption process again for my baby sister. And she's also from India. So we may look like each other, but we're not like biologically related. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell is just, yeah, that.
No,
So,
no, you're good. So are your parents, are they white? I'm guessing. Is that why? Okay. I was just
mhm,
going to say, is that why you asked I want somebody to look like me? Because I can
yeah.
relate to that. Like when I was little and, but because at this, I don't know, there's just so many different things that go into it because, you don't look like your family, but your family is your family. But at the same time, you're like, why doesn't anybody look like? I totally
Mhm,
wholeheartedly get that. And I get
yeah.
like, it's just crazy. So that's good that your dad was like, okay, whatever, let's do this. We got this. And I think that's so cool that your mom was approved to do it by like herself because I feel like there's a
Mhm.
lot of places that don't like want a mom and a dad or a
Yeah.
couple that's going to adopt.
Mhm.
So where did she go through to adopt?
She went through WACAP, adoption agency. It's specifically for babies from India, I believe.
Oh, very
Um,
cool.
and so I don't think uh, don't quote me on this, but I don't think they're actually around anymore, adoption agency wise. And plus, like right now, adopting from India is extremely difficult because they're finally feeling the effects of, you know, not wanting to keep the girls in families. So now they're trying to have more incentives to to try to keep, you know, keep girls in India. So
That's so crazy. Like the dynamics of different places is just so weird to me. Like
yeah,
just because I can't fathom it here, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
with girls and stuff, with like being raised in the United States and whatnot, and those kinds of things. That's crazy. So how much younger is your sister than you? The one that is adopted as well.
She I'm 35 and she's 27.
Cool.
So
Cool. So almost
not
10
a
years apart.
huge, yeah, not a huge gap, but there's a gap.
Awesome. And then they went through the same agency for her as well, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Cool, cool. That's crazy. Have you ever wanted to try and find, I mean, granted, I get like, you know, your biological, your birth mom, she just kind
Mhm.
of, have you ever wanted to maybe seek her out or no?
Oh yeah. Yeah, several times. Like, I mean, when I was younger, it never excuse me. When I was younger, it never like crossed my mind and stuff like that. But like when I got into college and started meeting other people, more people from India, because being raised in Idaho, you're not going to be you're not into that. There's not that much diversity when it comes to, and there's not a lot of diversity of Indian people, um unless you have like those connections and stuff like that. So when I went to school in Rexburg, I was one of there's obviously still just a small handful of people from India, but that's when I started um, being more curious about trying to figure out stuff. And I actually got accepted to do an internship. It was supposed to be like a 4-month internship in India. Granted, it wasn't going to be where I was from. It was going to be in the South, which is obviously different, and different culture, different language, everything. But it was still going to get me to India. But unfortunately, due to on the US side at least, paperwork, my passport was denied. And so it took 2 years to fix the paperwork that they wanted. And by the time I had fixed the paperwork, I had met my husband. And we the fixed paperwork just allowed us to get married. So I haven't actually been back. But the interesting thing is my husband actually served his mission in India. And the funny thing is had I actually been able to go over to India, I would have been in his mission, and we would have technically could have said we met while he was serving his mission. But yeah.
That's so crazy. So with the paperwork, were they just like, were you not considered a citizen yet then? Is that why?
Well, what had happened is just I have dual citizenship.
Okay.
And so for them, it was, well, who are you? Are you Indian? Are you American? And I had the paperwork to prove the adoption and the citizenship and stuff, but they still just kind of have that issue of people having the dual. And so once we figured it out and found all the correct, like, resubmitted all the paperwork, it just took them forever to accept the fact that they had all the paperwork and that it was correct, kind of thing. So yeah, it was definitely not a fun time, because my sister, I mean, my younger sister, she also did the exact same internship. Well, not the exact same, but she did a similar thing. She went back to India and she actually got to go to where she was adopted and born. And she was able to take a day and go and see the orphanage and talk to people in her hometown and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, so and my internship was going to be in the same place that hers was as well. But yeah, so it definitely, um, this was back in 2008. So obviously things have kind of changed a little bit, and um, I don't know. It was a little easier for her to get her passport because she had the same thing, dual citizenship, but it was still difficult for her, but in the end she was still able to get it done, um, and be able to go over, kind of thing.
That's crazy. That's crazy how that like, oh, just weird works out. But you do like, do
Yeah.
you want to go eventually one day over there and explore it?
Yeah, I totally want to go one day and do it because, like, I don't know if you've seen like the trend on Facebook, the "How are we related,"
Oh,
link and stuff. And so it kind of like it always kind of gives me like a little pain in my heart because I know I'm a related to people by adoption and stuff like that, but it still kind of hurts to not know exactly who and where. And I mean, I'm not seeking um like a I guess it's kind of hard to say. Like you want that personal relationship, but at the same time, I understand that my adoption could also have been like a very painful decision for my mom because again, that's all the information was is that she was young and that she was single and she came in alone. So there's like again, like I said, there's a million different stories you can come up with. Like, you know, uh, again, once she left, I was also a preemie at the time. And so it's a preemie and a girl. There's, many different stories on just how they would get rid of baby girls. And so it's one, avenue is was she doing it to protect me? Was she doing it because she was single and had nobody to take care of her? And again, you could play out different scenarios and obviously a lot of them you try to paint out the rosy, but of course you just never know. So for me, I think it'd be an awesome experience to be able to have that chapter um, defined a little bit better, but at the same time, I want to be able to respect if, that's why in India they do the closed adoptions because it's just um, harder. And a lot of the children, and it's just like a lot of the children are left. Like I was fortunate to be born in the orphanage, but some aren't. Like like I've known people who have said that they were left on the street, they were found in baskets, that kind of thing. So it is what it is. It's, you know, kind of hard.
no, and I appreciate you for saying those things because I feel like that's one thing I have felt, and I feel there's like a shift with adoptees. The narrative's going to where, because it's hard to voice that, because there really truly is a part of you that you don't understand, you don't know, because you want to find those people that look like you. You
Yeah.
want to find those people that have similarities with you. Like when you were talking about it, it gave me all the feels because I get it 100%. But the other side, you're like, well, then I'm going to seem ungrateful to my family because they're like, well, but it's hard because I'm in a situation like you where I have 4 older brothers and sisters, and they are all biologically my parents. And so they
Hmm.
like have each other, and then there's me, which is not a bad thing. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like as you get older, you want to know where you've come from. You want to
Hmm.
know things that have like I get it. And so I'm with you. That's probably one of the hardest things. And then the unknown, like when I did seek to, find things exactly what you said. Unfortunately, the mind is stupid. It likes to
Yeah.
play all these bad scenarios. And exactly, you don't want to intrude. I wholeheartedly understand that with,
Hmm.
like you said, it's closed for a reason, and so crazy. So thank you for sharing that because I know that's probably one of the hardest things, like as an adoptee, that I know, like, because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but at the same time, your feelings are 100% valid because,
Yeah.
it's different. It's different for us because there's not people, you're like me now, though you have your own kids. And so it's so
Yeah.
crazy to me that I'm like, oh my gosh, my children look like me. I grew up.
Yeah. And that's what me and my younger sister have talked about is because she has those exact same feelings. And, and I told her, like what you said, it's the exact same thing. Until I got married and had my own children, I was restless and I kind of struggled with the idea of trying it. And that's why I did the ancestral DNA and stuff. And unfortunately for India, they're, you know, not quite there when it comes to the testing and stuff. So, I mean, eventually maybe I'll be able to pinpoint more, but the closest I can get is like third or fourth cousins removed kind of thing. And so but yeah, once I got married and have children, it's like, okay, these people, I have a connection, a different type of connection. and a different type of understanding. And so, and my sister, who is single, she's still kind of struggling with that because she wants, she's trying to figure that out. And she is on her own journey trying to figure out stuff like that. Like I said, she was able to go back and just kind of have that experience of what it would have been like had she not left India, kind of thing.
And having kids, it fills a little bit of that void in your heart, but there's always that void just because
Hmm.
it's the unknown. And I get it. I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly get it. And it's the hard thing because, like I said, you don't want feelings hurt with your family, but at the same time, they're all connected bloodly, and so everything goes black bloodly. And that sounds weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Everything goes back
I
to
know
them.
what you mean.
And yes, you're still a part of them, but also you're still your own person. So I wholeheartedly get that. So thank you for bringing that up. I don't think I've talked about that with anybody because like, it's hard. I get it. And you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but at the same time, like I said, you're totally 100% valid. So
Yeah.
I will ask you this question too. What has been like the greatest thing about being adopted? Take kind of a different turn on it there.
The greatest thing about being adopted, I mean, like, honestly, when I think about it, I don't really like dwell on the fact that I'm adopted. Like, it's just one of those things that for me, it's just having the parents that I have and growing up with the siblings that I have. That's like the greatest thing. Like, being the oldest of six and having, six kids in 10 years causes a lot of, we're obviously really close in age, and, younger years we fought and stuff. But if anything were to happen to any of my siblings, we would all just go to bat for each other. And it's one of those things that, you know, again, you could play the what if game, like what if I wasn't adopted? But again, that's not anything I've ever dwelt on, because in my heart, I know that they were meant to be my parents. I was meant to have them as my brothers and sisters, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Um, and like, obviously it presented just, stability and love and happiness. So honestly, it's like, again, the reason why I asked for, because I was like 7 years old when I asked my parents when I was gonna get, and when I had my sister, like, she, again, it didn't feel like it was, oh, we're from different moms. It was, oh, she's my sister, so it was just kind of cool to and amazing to just know that there is that much love in, that you're able to have and get that much love in no matter what your family situation is, kind of thing.
Correct. See, and I love that because it's like totally two different sides of it because your family is still your family. And that comes back to, like I said, I get they have like all the blood relation with their ancestry, but at the same time, you don't have blood relation, but they're 100% your family. And like you said,
Mhm.
same with my siblings and my parents, they would do anything for me, and vice versa. I would do anything for them if any of us were in a bind. It's just, it is what it is. You grow up with it. And it's like you said, I honestly, I don't ever dwell about it or think about it, or like it's not something, oh my gosh, I'm adopted all the time. It's just, if people ask or it comes up, but your family
Mhm.
is your family. Like I get that
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. Your mom and your dad, all those, and you just are your family. Plain and simple, it's your family. And
Mhm.
I think one of the best things is like growing up and stuff because you see your family all the time. And I don't know if you've ever felt that, like, or had this happen, but then like friends would come over and they're like, wait, your mom and dad are white. And you're like, I forgot
Oh my goodness, I have
that.
stories. Yes, I have stories. My brother, he is 3 years younger than me, I think. And we went to college together. And one of my bishops was actually my mom's zone leader on her mission. And he had me in his ward for a whole year. And then he met my brother, who came to visit my ward because he was new at college. And like, I had gotten him a job and everything. So we worked together, and he just felt more comfortable coming to church with me that first Sunday at church. And my bishop comes up and he's like, "Ooh, Erin, who's the cute boy?" And I was like, "Oh, this is Michael Metcalf." And he's like, "Oh," he's like, "I knew your mom in on the mission." He's like, "Erin, you're lucky." And I was like, "That's my brother." It was hilarious. Like, we got that all the time. all the time because all the girls would come over. They would be like, "Ooh, who's the new boy working? He's kind of cute. You should go out with him." I'm like, "No, I've known him since birth." And then my favorite is like when they do see us and they're like, "But wait, you're so dark. What happened?" I'm like, "Does not people do not realize like they act like it's such a novelty to see like a dark person with a white family." But I was like, "Really?" And then it's also like when people put me and my husband together, my husband's 6'4", white boy with, scruffy facial hair, and I'm 4'11" and dark, and my kids look like their dad. Like none of them are really that dark. They have like the olive complexion, but when they look at us, they're like, "What?" I was like that. And then they ask, "Well, why didn't you marry somebody like you?" And I'm like, do you see the population in the United States and especially in Utah? It's mainly white boys." Like, it just makes me laugh because I get that people like they want to have a talking point with you, but that's definitely not the way to go about having a talking point. But again, you just kind of have to laugh at it because it is what it is. People
No,
just they try to figure out how to talk to you and relate.
exactly. And I love that, like, this day and age, man, it's so crazy. And you know that, and everything with the racism. But honestly, I just feel kind of like just educate yourself, talk to the
Mhm.
person. People don't realize by saying certain things, sometimes it can offend someone. But you, as
Yeah.
that person, just have to speak up and just be like, I understand that, but like, it's okay that I
Yeah.
married a white person. It's
Yeah.
okay that, I didn't marry, because, they just, and you just can't take offense to everything. Like,
Yeah.
old.
Yeah. And like you said, like in this day and age, like when I was raised, my parents always just talked about love one another, treat people the right way. And so honestly, like yeah, a lot of the times I'm like, whatever, I don't care. You can just say what you're gonna say because you're just ignorant. I don't consider it, like you said, racism. I chuck it up to ignorance, and I chalk it up to them trying to find something to talk about. So it's never really bothered me. The only time it bothers me is when people are like, "Oh, I'm good at guessing. Let me just guess." And then they list like I had one person back in college. She was like, "I'm really good at guessing." And she was like, "You're from China." And I was like, no." And she's like, "Japan, Africa." She listed off 15 countries. And finally I put my hand up and I was like, "No, I'm from India." And then her immediate reaction was, "Oh, I love Bollywood movies." And I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Okay, that's awesome." Like, how do you can't even like go from there. It's like you can go from people asking where you're from, but when they start like listing it off and then not getting it right. And honestly, I felt like at that point after her listing 10 or so different places, that it was more of just a game for her, not like, and I mean, I get it. Like, you can't look at any one person and be like, "Oh yeah, you're totally from India," or, there's a lot of different races that are intermixed. And so one person may identify more with one or the other, or whatever. But yeah, it's like at some point, that they're just kind of mocking.
And
But
that's
yeah.
hard because I mean, you could flip it on her and be like, "Are you from Sweden? Wait, are you from London? Are you from," and,
Yeah.
but it's totally different when it comes to like white people. And that's not like me trying
Oh
to be
yeah.
racist at all, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
totally different because it's not a guessing game with them because they're all white. Like, you know what I
uh-huh.
mean?
Yeah.
Brown people and
it,
black people, they look all different, but it's the diversity is insane because even though I'm
mhm.
Hispanic, I get a lot of people who think I'm like Polynesian. A lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people, and I'm just like, no, I'm actually like Colombian, but
Yeah.
you know. So I get that where people just kind of assume, and sometimes it's just out of plain. I honestly don't know, but that girl just sounds. It's just
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you can kind of tell when people just genuinely don't know. And then there's the others that are like,
yeah,
I don't know if they're trying to downplay the fact that you're not white, or again, I chalked that up to just being um ignorant. Like she just wanted to the ignorance was there and she just didn't want to admit that kind of thing. So yeah, again, growing up in a white family, it did present, those kind of questions and those kind of challenges. Like in elementary school, I had a pair of bullies who would pick on me constantly for it. And again, I didn't back then, and still today, I mean, like, you don't look at your family as the race. I looked at them as my family, and I do look at them as my family. And so for them to just like constantly point out and harass and actually start beating me up for it, it was like, I don't get what your problem is. It's my mom and my dad and my sisters and brothers. Like, what is the problem with it? And then, moving into middle school, it was the exact same thing. I had one person who just constantly was like, because I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know the history, but like originally the swastika is a sign of, in India, like they use it a lot for prayers, and I can't remember the exact meaning of it, so I'd have to look it up. But India was using it way before it got the negative connotations, and this boy decided that he wanted to attach that to me. And he would go around telling people that I worshiped the swastika and that I was a Nazi. And again, I just kind of tilted my head and I'm like, okay, first off, do you even know the meaning of it? I get that there's the negative meaning for everybody, but at the same time, I'm like, you're bringing in a religion that I don't know if you actually know. And I'm not claiming I know anything about the religion either. But again, it was one of those things that eventually, like, I just put up with it. I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna even give you the time of day. But it wasn't until a teacher had caught and overheard him saying and doing this, and then pulling me aside and been like, and was like, how long has this been going on? You do realize this is like harassment based on your race. And again, like I said, I just chucked it up to him being ignorant. And yeah, it bugged me to have him say that. But again, you know, I didn't know what to do and I didn't care because I had friends who reassured me that he was just being a jerk and I left it at that kind of thing. And so, it's just one of those things like I feel like after the whole incident and stuff, he like apologized and realized and stuff. And again, not the best way to go about learning anything, but at the same time, again, like my parents always just taught me that, love one another. And, if they don't love you back, that's they're on them, but at least you have that in your heart. And you're not going to be, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel, you know, those kind of feelings, but you don't need to dwell on them because you do have a support system in the family with your friends and stuff like that. So,
Right. No. And yeah, that's hard. I never ran into really anything like that. So again, thank you for sharing that because that breaks my heart. And it is hard where it's so much like between Idaho and Utah. It's very, very much a white culture, which
mhm,
isn't anybody's fault. But I mean, it breaks my heart when kids can just be mean. And it's not just
yeah,
like just me and you because of our color. Kids are just mean in
yeah,
general.
oh yeah,
Like
yeah. Kids are mean
little
regardless.
jerks. So anyway, but okay, seriously, thank you so much, Erin, for doing this with me. And I loved it. And like I said, I always learn something new. And now I'm gonna probably go Google like swastika and go look and see like
Yeah.
on it because just learning things like that. So seriously, thank you so much for taking some time, especially on your
Mhm.
Saturday morning to do this with me. And I just so love and appreciate you. And seriously, I love meeting people that are fellow adoptees because everybody's story is so incredibly different. So
Mhm.
thank
Me
you,
too. Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you.